Welcome to Ring the Damn Bell. Today, I have a very, very special guest, someone that I'm excited to have. I grew up watching her be both a very bad valet, helping people like Terry Blanchard, and as well as her being the big baby face valet, someone that helped people like Dusty Rhodes. And of course, I'm talking about Baby Doll, the Perfect 10. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Yes, I tell my tell people that I'm very good at being very bad.
You are actually, as much as I endure you now and the memories back then when I was a kid, I hated you at times.
Well, good. I
And
did my
also,
job.
I also want
I
to
really did want you
highlight.
to hate me. I really did want you to hate
Right,
me
that
a
was your
lot.
plan.
I want you
Yeah,
to hate
yeah,
me so bad that you'd spend $20 to come see me get beat.
absolutely, absolutely. But I also wanted to highlight before we get into your story that your daughter, Samantha Starr, is now wrestling, which makes her the very first third generation wrestler that comes from, from her
All
grandmother, mother.
females. All
Yeah,
females.
all
Yes.
females. Yeah, and
Right.
that,
Yeah. Mom, grandma,
and
and 3 out of 4 grandparents. Both of her parents, and Jake the Snake is her uncle, and Rock and Robin WWE, or back then WWF Women's World Champion. So yeah, quite a heritage.
yeah,
I'm
she
happy
does.
for her.
And
She's now won if you want a little bit of history, she actually won the tag team title with Ella Envy. They're the It Girls. And the tag team title is the same one that my mom held 3 different times in the 50s with
wow,
Millie Stafford and Penny Banner. So yes.
wow. That
Very
that's
cool.
actually
Very cool.
yeah, that's very, very cool. And she's
And especially since
phenomenal.
Billy Corgan likes the history of the NWA and the heritage of it and where we came from, to have is and his female talent. I mean, his women's division is literally fire. He's got so many good girls, the top women athletes working for him. So for Samantha to hang a tag team title on her belt, man, that's good. That's so great.
Yeah, and the NWA is an promotion that I hold dear to me because I grew up watching Mid
Hmm.
South and Atlanta Championship Wrestling. So it's awesome, and she's phenomenal in the
Yes.
ring. She really is. One other question about her, and then we'll get to you. Do you see her possibly ever leaving the NWA and going to either of the two big promotions, which is AW or WWE?
It just depends. I don't see why not. I mean, she's talented. She's got the look. She's got the heritage. She would be everything that they would want in a performer and a wrestler and an athlete. She would work well with any of them. So, the sky's the limit. I mean, it's just there's really nothing holding her back.
No, there's
Nothing.
not, and she is a spitting image of you. I know
Yeah.
when I looked at her, it really reminded me of you back in the days of when you with Tully Blanchard and all those
Oh,
guys. I
she's
think she looks like you.
I might be pretty, but she's beautiful. And I think that you guys see her mannerisms because she's watched me and
Mhm.
she's watched my facial expressions. And every time I got mad at her, like really happy with games and everything, I think it's more in how she sells, the match and in her face. But
That could be
no,
it.
she's beautiful. I'm no comparison.
Oh, you're selling yourself short.
No.
So let's get talking about you. You were born in February of '62,
Mhm.
and like you said, you was born to a wrestling family. Your dad was Nick Johnson, and of course your mom was Lorraine Johnson,
No,
and they
my dad's
both
Nick Roberts. My dad's Nick
Nick Roberts.
Roberts,
Nick Roberts. I'm
and
sorry,
my
Nick
mom's
Roberts.
Lorraine
Yep,
Johnson. Yes. No,
yep,
you're
Lorraine
you're
Johnson.
good. You're good.
Yep, yep. But they both wrestled, and your dad was
Mhm.
also a big promoter in Lubbock, Texas, and had a weekly events in Fair Park Coliseum. Is that correct?
Yes, for over 20 years, he promoted Lubbock every weekend or every week for over 22 years, except for on the fair week. And then we had to break everything down and clear out the Coliseum, because that was when the county fair came in, and we ran the concessions. Plus, he also had the concessions at Fair Park. So anytime there was a event going on, from rodeo to kids soccer, we did a lot of square dances, his Mexican weddings. Anytime there was an event that came in, or a concert or whatever, we had the concessions. We also, if they sold merchandise, we got a percentage off of it. Otherwise, we sold the merchandise for them, and then we split it up. So Dad had it was a business for him. It literally was a business.
And you actually really kind of started in the business by helping out, passing out flyers and whatnot. Did your parents, oftentimes we hear a lot from wrestlers who are second generations, who they always say that their parents forbid them from getting into the business. Was that kind of the same way with you, that your mom and dad didn't want you? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I was so jealous whenever I'd go to like another promotion or another show or something, and like the kids would be able to play in the ring or get to play. No, it was business from the very start. We never played in the ring. We weren't ever allowed in the ring unless we were sweeping it out, because that was the business. That, it was a no-no. It wasn't happy, fun playtime. It was, how we made our living. It was very serious. Kayfabe was very strict in my house. In fact, I wasn't truly smart until my very first match, when Ken Mantell and Gino and Mike and Stellar were all in the dressing room, and they gave me like what they wanted in the match and what I was supposed to do. And it wasn't until after they left that I'm going, oh my gosh, that's how they do it. That's how, because I never knew, and whenever my brother and I would walk in the room, my parents or other guys would go, kayfabe, kayfabe. And I always looked for Kay. I thought Kay was like some other little kid, and I wanted to go play.
That's funny.
Oh, well.
My son and I just went to a local event, a wrestling event here last Saturday, and we were close enough to the ring that you could actually hear the wrestlers calling what they were going to do. But what still amazed me was that they would just say like just one words, and that's all they needed, and they still worked so well in sync with one another.
Where did you guys go? What town?
In Crystal, Minnesota.
Okay.
I live in Minnesota, so it's in Crystal, Minnesota. It's a very small promotion. I'm actually planning on having a couple of their guys on the podcast, because as much as I love having, legends and current workers on, our independent wrestlers are our future.
Oh, I love indie wrestling. My husband and my daughter laugh at me because I love wrestling. I love going to the shows. I love seeing all the gimmicks. I love seeing like how they walk in the building and who's going to be a future star and who's just kind of there to show up. And and especially being in the Mid-Atlantic. And see, my mom's from Red Wing. Now, where are you at in Minnesota?
Oh, I'm in Anoka, Minnesota. I'm about an hour from Red Wing.
Okay. Yeah, we used to go, one summer we'd go to Red Wing, and then the other summer we'd go to Decatur, where my dad's parents were. And then we go to Red Wing, where my mom's family was. So, I learned how to water ski on the Mississippi River in the barges. And it was so scary. Yeah. I had to get up to ski because the water was so murky that I couldn't see like from my waist down. So I was scared to death because I'd read Men of the Mississippi with the big snapping turtles, and I just knew something was going to grab me. So, yeah, for the life of me, I got up on those skis and I didn't fall.
Yeah, see, I'm originally from Louisiana. That's where I was raised and grew up. And Louisiana and Minnesota have one very strong thing in common when it comes to professional wrestling. A lot of your legends from yesteryears came from
right. So many guys came out of Minnesota. You had like Barry Darsow and Nikita and the Road Warriors and Larry Henning and Kurt Henning and I'm going to forget all of them, but they're there for about 15 years. Probably 30 really good wrestlers came out of there.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of great wrestlers, Your really first break, I guess, was with Gino Hernandez.
Mhm.
And of course, it was due to a woman named Sunshine, who was a truck driver, attacking Gino. But tell us the story about how you got involved with it, as well as Gino. He was your crush
Right.
growing up.
It was my parents talked about business and things like that, and then being a nosy teenager, or being like in my 20s, you just kind of overhear things. And they were talking about that they were looking for a girl for Gino, because Stella had come in, Sunshine had gone to rehab, and she was going to be gone for like the 90 to 120 days. They weren't quite sure, or even if she was going to come back. So they were looking for someone to work against Stella, because with Gino, he couldn't like fight the woman. You couldn't touch a woman. You couldn't. It was just forbidden. Like if they had a mixed tag team, and the girl tagged out to the partner who was a male,
Right.
then the other girl had to tag out. It was taboo. So I thought, wow, might be a spot for me. So they were talking about like a bodyguard type thing. So I actually stole my dad's black book. Back then we had black books with all the phone numbers in them. And I went down to a boyfriend's house, and I called it said Dallas office. Call the Dallas office. I had no idea who was going to answer, whether it was going to be a secretary, what I was going to say, or whatever. The stars lined up. God had a mission. David Manning answered the phone. And David and I had been friends for like forever, because I'd sold a lot of the merch for Von Erichs when they were up wrestling in Lubbock. So I already knew David very, very well. I talked to him every week because we did T-shirt sales and programs and pictures and everything. And I gave him the spiel. I said, hey, I just heard my parents talking and yada, yada, yada. And they were talking about a bodyguard. And what about me? I mean, I'm smart, I'm pretty, and I'm athletic. And, maybe you guys could work with me on something. And I could tell in his voice, he was just like, this is it. You're what we're looking for. And so he said that they were just getting ready to have a meeting with Fritz up in the office, and that he would run it by him and see what they thought. And he would call me right back. So I'm waiting. About 45 minutes later, David called, and he said that Fritz loved the idea, that it would be perfect, and that they would love for me to start. So then he said, the only problem that we have is who's going to tell your dad. So in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, if I'm going to make this big move, better put my big girl panties on and go home and let them know what's going on. Because I was going to school at Texas Tech. I was studying to be an EMT. I had about 2.5 weeks left in the course. I was in there's 16 in the class. I was in the top 4. I was doing really well. But it's not something that you want to tell your parents, hey, I'm going to quit college and move to Dallas and run around with wrestlers.
Right,
Not the best conversation I ever had. But
you were going to college to be into dentistry, was it?
No, I was. I had to go into an EMT. I wanted to basically work up to be a paramedic, and then I wanted to go to ski patrol in Colorado, because I figured that if I worked for the Park Service, I could go in the parks wherever I wanted to. I would know all the secret places. I could go where the regular campers didn't go. And then for me, I wanted the hero moment of if someone got stranded up on the ski slope, that I could shush up and shh. Can I help you?
Right.
So that was what I wanted to do at one time. I don't have the knees now. I couldn't ski if I had to, but that was my deal. I kind of wanted to be Pam Anderson on the ski slopes.
Right. So going back to, you're saying about your first gig, work with Gino, and that, Fritz said that you had to talk to your dad first. How did that conversation go with your dad?
A lot of head shaking, a lot of just not what they had in mind. I think my mom took it worse than my dad. My dad's very low key, very okay, okay, well, if this is what you want to do. I mean, he couldn't stop me. My mom was more ballistic over it, but I just packed up my stuff and left. but oh
Yes.
well.
So, working with Gino, like I said, mentioned that you had a crush on Gino growing
Mhm.
up. A lot of times when you meet your idol, they say don't meet your idols because you'll be disappointed, type of a thing, right? Was
Right.
it that way with Gino, or was Gino even greater than what you expected him to be?
Um, I'd known Gino for several years before this,
Okay.
so I kind of already knew. And so I knew the arrogance, the egotistical, the whole thing. I thought that he would help me more because if he helped me, then it would help the whole gimmick situation. I made one trip with him, and that was to Abilene. And then I caught a ride back because he had other things to do. He had to drive down to Houston. When they say that he was leading like two lives, I think he was leading like three. He
Yeah.
was very secretive, very, he'd come to the shows and leave, knew very little about him. We never went out to eat or, socialized or anything like that. It was like once he left the matches, it was totally over and he went and did something else. And then it was whenever I saw the Dark Side of the Ring episode, I actually found out like he was married and had two daughters at the time. And, he was also dating a high school girl that was going to Highland Park High School because I saw her and saw the
Right.
engagement ring that he was going to give to her. So, there was a lot of stuff going on in Gino. And it wasn't like he burst my bubble or anything. It was just, I already knew. I just wanted to have time with him and just be there, and be someone different than just all the other girls. And I got that. I mean, I got to go to the ring with him for about 4 months, and it was fun. I wouldn't trade it for nothing. And then I also got to work with Jake, which really helped me. He helped me more than anybody at that time. So I was very fortunate. And it was probably fortunate that it was the way, because that way I got to spend more time with Jake and I learned how to be a heel from Jake.
Right. So how long was it? Well, you said you was with him for 4 months. Was it your
Mhm.
decision that you wanted to move on from Gino? Or was it, someone within the business that said, hey, we want you to do something else instead?
What it had worked out was, um, my time was going to be there and Stella's time was until Sunshine got back. And whenever we did the Cotton Bowl show where Sunshine came down in the helicopter, that was kind of her test to see what she would look like and how she was going to do. And when she came off the helicopter and had that pink sweater dress on and was all sparkly and pretty, I think Stella and I knew right then that our time was
It was
limited. Yeah, it was God, because that was her. Sunshine was Texas wrestling for several years. And
right.
when she came back and she was all healthy, um, I worked a reunion arena show. And then like a month after that, because they were phasing us out. But then I had Christmas Day and the day after in Tampa and Miami. And then that was it. So if I hadn't seen Dusty in Florida, I would have never gone anywhere else. I don't think that would have been the end.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Huh. It's funny how things happen because I can imagine, you know, wrestling down south and the places that I've seen you at
Mhm.
without you part of those storylines. So that's kind of weird to even, you say, and we have to think about, man, how different things would have turned out
Right.
with storylines. But you
Right.
mentioned Jake. So I know that you trained at first with Jake, the Snake Roberts, to get started, and then with Nelson Royal. But ultimately, you ended up not liking the actual wrestling in the ring because I think I heard you say that your body just wouldn't adapt to it. Is
It
that correct?
hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
See, that's one thing whenever you train to wrestle is when you're a small child, you teach yourself not to fall. You teach yourself how to walk, and that if you fall, it hurts. So you just learn that. So that when you train to wrestle, you have to erase all that. You have to teach yourself to fall and fall very hard and very deliberate and very flat. And your body, like a lot of people want to be wrestlers, but only a very small portion can become wrestlers because your body will not let you. It'll shut down. You go to do a bump and you freeze up. You go to do, like someone picks you up or something and you tense up. I'm not built for it. I'm real butt heavy, and to do like flips and stuff like that, I was landing like too hard.
Mm.
I only had a couple of months at it, actually a couple of weeks. And then Robin actually went to WWF because we were both training at the same time. So for me, it was perfect because I got to train with her. I got to train with Ken Shamrock. I got to train with Nelson Royal. I mean, I could if I had to, but for me, like the girls that were working at the time, like with Sherry and Robin, they were a lot smaller than I am. Like 50 pounds is a big difference.
Mm.
And I kind of liked where I was being a valet and not taking bumps. And I'm glad that Robin went on and was able to wrestle and become WWF Women's Champion, because she was so much better than I would have ever been.
Right, right. So you're talking about the rings. When I was younger, does the name Sonny King? Do you remember Sonny King?
The boxer?
No, the wrestler Sonny King. He wrestled for Mid South for Bill Watts. And
I remember the name.
Yeah. So when he retired, he moved from the town. He moved to the town that I lived in. I became pretty good friends with his son. And he brought professional wrestling to the little town of Donaldsonville, Louisiana, where I grew up at. And because I was friends with Lowry, I got to help put up the ring.
Right.
And let me tell you, that ring is no joke. I mean, I was
boards and steel. That's it. Boards and steel.
Yeah, it was. And then, Ric Flair, when he did the ESPN 30 for 30, he was talking about how he was training and how just the ropes when you first start would tear flesh
right.
on your back
True.
and stuff. So, yeah, you're right. It's no joke for people who think that, you could just get into it. No, you have to be a true athlete.
Now, what part of Louisiana are you from?
It's called Donaldsonville. It is
Where's it close
to? It's kind of in between Baton Rouge and New Orleans.
Okay.
It's a small town.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to go to the Superdome all the time when I was a kid to watch professional wrestling, the Junkyard Dog and all those guys.
I conceived Samantha in Baton Rouge.
Oh, really?
Yes. She was conceived in Baton Rouge and born in Lubbock, Texas.
Okay. Yeah, being friends with Sonny King's son, I actually got to meet Bill Watts and a couple of other guys, and some were very nice. Bill Watts, I understand why he had the reputation because, at 13 years old, he was very kind to me, but he scared me. He was much bigger than what he looked on TV type of thing. But so anyway, so you went on to work for JCP and NWA and was introduced by Tully Blanchard as his new manager, Baby Doll, the Perfect 10. Do you feel like your career took off more so there than it did with Gino?
Oh, tenfold. Because with World Class, I was just temporary, and I knew that the time was limited, so they weren't going to put any time and effort into me or development of character or anything like that. Whenever I went to Crockett and worked with Tully, you could tell that Dusty saw money in my character and saw money and what he could do with me. He saw so many different storylines. You could just see like how creative he could be with my character, and especially because I was so different. I'm not like the normal girl. I mean, I could actually get up there and actually get face to face with them and jaw jack with them, and it's funny because the first time that we did the deal where he slapped me, the people went so nuts. I hadn't really watched it because back then we were so busy, we just didn't have time to watch ourselves, and it was kind of taboo that you didn't watch yourself for some reason. But it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I was like watching some stuff with some friends, and the guy was watching the tape of himself, and I kept hearing it like over and over and over again. I'm like, what are you doing? And he says, whenever I'm watching, he says, I'm watching like the right side of the crowd, the left side of the crowd, the whole thing. I'm watching my point. I'm just picking it apart, like, like seeing all the different parts of it. He says, watch this. And he says, look at the women, how mad they are at you. And sure enough, like women have got cigarettes hanging out of their mouth and they're holding the drinks and they're going, hit her again, hit her again. And he says, when do you ever see females want a man to hit another female? They never, never, never. He says,
Right.
Dusty could have so turned heel at that point, but you were so over that he said, there's no way. They actually wanted to kill you. I was like, yeah, they did.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, watching professional wrestling back then with my father, right? He liked it, but he would always make no comments. One of the comments he used to say was, joking around, boy, if you ever hit a man that many times, he doesn't go down, it's time to run. And the only time I ever seen him get real serious with me about it was that slap incident. He made me turn around and look at him, and he very strongly told me hitting a woman is never okay. Do you understand me? Because he knew that I copied things I seen in professional wrestling. I would wrestle my pillows in the bed when I was a kid. I loved professional wrestling, and that was the only time that he got very serious. So that was something I was going to bring up later, but since you brought it up, that slap was truly a slap heard around the world because he really made contact with your face. And I think you actually even told him, don't hold back, slap the piss out of me.
Right. You can't. I mean, you just can't. So, and I don't want to get down on like the intergender wrestling because it's got its own niche going on now, but I think it's really bad for like boys to be beating up on girls like that. It just sends a wrong message, and that, female athletes, we're a class to ourselves. We're not men. We can't, and they can say all they want to, but women, for the most part, cannot hold themselves against a man in a fight. It's just not going to work. And so for the intergender stuff, I think it's pushing it a little bit too far.
And this is just me. And one great thing about professional wrestling is, on one show, there's always something for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. For myself, and I'm just talking for myself, I personally don't enjoy intergender wrestling. One big reason is because, maybe not all the time, but normally, to see a woman beat a man like that, right? When the woman wins, I know I'm supposed to suspend my disbelief, but at the same time, I need you to help me suspend that disbelief, right? So, I that's not my thing. But on the other hand, matter of fact, and I'm not going to mention this professional wrestler's name because they have enough heat on them because of this, but they're in AEW, a transgender wrestler, right? Performs as a female. That so much I don't have a problem with because of the fact that professional wrestling in general, everyone, they're characters to begin with, right? So that I don't have an issue with because this person's wrestling other females. This person is dressed like a female. Cool, whatever. But when it's man versus woman, and I'm just not a big fan of that. And now that I'm a father myself, I understand why my dad got serious at that moment to explain, hey.
And we're all characters. When you look at wrestling, I mean, whenever I grew up, there were a lot more with the small people, with the midgets and the dwarves wrestling. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't have that anymore because it's not politically correct, but that was so accepted back then. And like now, oh my gosh, you can't even do it. So it's strange how things kind of wind around and circle around, but really and truly, we're all characters, and it's a show, and it's how much we can make you believe.
Exactly.
And I'll say, I mean, Nyla Rose worked against Samantha in some of their very, very first matches and had good matches. And I have nothing. kind of have to admire Nyla a little bit more for all the heat that
Right.
they get just being the character and trying to
Right.
do a good job rather than looking at the whole thing. I mean, I don't think you should get heat for trying to do a good
Right,
job.
right. Yeah, the only issue that I have with Nyla Rose and AEW is not with Nyla Rose's Nyla Rose, but with how AEW has booked Nyla Rose.
Mhm.
Because if you're going to book Nyla Rose as this, and when I say monster, I don't mean like Boogeyman monster. I mean like
The beast,
monster,
yeah, the
unbeatable,
beast, yeah.
the beast, right? Then book Nyla Rose as the beast and stop having her take losses every time she gets into the ring. I have an
Right.
issue with that because I think Nyla Rose could be the next phenom in AEW as far as wrestling, as a quote unquote female type of a thing. But anyway, that's the I kind of wanted to stick to you. So with Tully Blanchard, you talked about the slap around the world. Um, did you? And I don't want names unless you want to mention them. As a woman back then in professional wrestling, around all of these guys, did you ever have any issues with harassment, anything else by a lot of these guys, or were these guys just really professional people in whatever it doesn't matter what promotion that really respected you?
I had no problems, mainly because I think a lot of the guys knew my dad and had worked for my dad with the Lubbock promotion. Plus, they also saw money in my
Right.
character and how I conducted myself, and they could see how the crowds reacted to me. So why are you going to mess with something that's going to make you rich? And I think I made some of those guys a lot of money. I think to this day, Cornette says that in July of '86, he made more money working against me than any other time in his life. So
Yeah.
it's all down to
Well,
money, and it's how you present yourself. I've seen some girls get in the dressing room and then they get right in the middle of the floor and start undressing and bending over, and I'm like, girl, how's anyone going to respect you after you just acted
right.
like that and then act all just flabbergasted that somebody said something off to you, but when you just had your butt in everybody's face. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you
And speaking
how
of,
you conduct yourself is how you're going to be treated.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And speaking of Cornette, I know that you had a feud with Cornette, like you said,
Mhm.
on TV, but I've also heard you say in other interviews that Cornette tended to cross the line when it came to his promos with you, with just saying some really nasty things. Um, is that is that you kind of being kayfabe still, or is that a shoot and how you really feel?
Well, whenever you're, I guess,
Because I
in
love
80
Cornette,
in
and I do.
86 in 86 I would have been 24 years old.
Yeah.
So at 24 and having someone saying that you're fat and you shoot and you shop in the Junior Moose department and that you're a man and different things like that, it's hard not to take it personal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It
Right.
does, it hurts, but it made
Yeah.
money. So, and it's like what Tully says. He said, "You like going to the bank on Wednesday, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." He says, "You're putting in more money in your bank account than you ever have in your whole life." And I said, "Yeah." So what I'm making in a week,
Yeah.
I used to make in 2 months. And he said, "Then don't worry about it." He says, "They're going to believe what they're going to believe, and we want them to believe."
Yeah.
So it made
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. It did. And it's funny because I love Cornette only because he tells it the way it is.
Oh yeah.
Even if I disagree with him, I respect the fact that, he's just very open and honest. You know exactly what he said with
Oh yeah.
Cornette. So,
And to this
but
day,
so,
whenever I've seen him at a couple of shows, like it's been a while because he hasn't traveled in a long time. But it was funny because he blocked me in 2016 on Twitter. Yeah, he blocked me. And so whenever I saw him about a year after that at a show up in Connecticut. And he was just like, "Oh, I can't believe it's you." And he says, "We're not talking any politics." He says, "We're going to have a good time." And he hugged me, and that was it. So, oh well.
yeah, yeah, you know what? Not talking politics, especially when it comes to entertainment, is a good rule of thumb. I hate when
Right.
people mix that. So you had the opportunity to work with two of the most well, a tag team that, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated legends in the industry, which is the Rock and Roll Express. The
Oh.
reason why I say underrated is because you always hear people talk about these other tag teams throughout history. And
Mhm.
although the Rock and Roll Express is still mentioned, they're not mentioned as much as they should be mentioned because, at least in my opinion, these guys were just amazing in the ring. And when you talk about perfection in tag team wrestling, as far as working together and knowing each other, to me, I think of the Rock and Roll Express. How was it working with those guys?
It was like working with rock stars. No matter where we went, pulling into buildings, different things, different venues, from little bitty babies to grandmas were just literally crying whenever they saw Ricky and Robert. So it was like working with rock stars. And to this
Okay.
day,
Oh,
whenever I work with Ricky, I haven't worked with Robert that much lately because he's had his hip operated on. But the past couple of years working with Ricky and Robert in like tag team matches for Legends matches and stuff like that, I am exhausted because we're always clapping and we're always cheering and we're always like getting Ricky into that comeback, and they work so hard. I'm so happy to be able to work with them.
yeah. Do you wish you would have been able to work more with them back during those days?
I don't think it would have worked because the girls they won for the couple of matches that we had with the Great American. It worked out really well because Rock and Roll Express had already had I think for that short amount of time, that's all it needed.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. I think that, because a large portion of their audience were these women who love them, I
Mhm,
think them having an attractive valet with them may have
mhm.
taken away from
Oh, they
from
would have wanted to
that.
kill me.
So
Yeah, they
yeah,
would have, unless I was going to work heel and turned against them. Yeah, they
yeah,
were going to kill me otherwise.
yeah. So going back to a little bit of your personal life, you married Michael Houston, Sam Houston, on July
Huh?
30th in 1986. You know what's funny about Sam Houston? And help me out here. For some
Everything.
reason, I
Give a list of what's funny with Sam Houston.
well, in the professional wrestling world, why do I have memories of him being promoted as Barry Windham's brother? Was that a thing? Or
Mm-mm.
is that just my brain being confused from a kid?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
Barry had Kendall as his brother, but no, it
right.
was never. Mm-mm.
Another Sam. Huh. Maybe I am thinking of Kendall. For some reason, all these years, I knew that really he was Jake's brother, but for some reason, I always thought about him with Barry, but it probably was because of Kendall
Right.
Williams
Right.
or
I
Kendall
think,
that I was
and
thinking
see,
of.
Kendall and him were both like tall, lanky, skinny. Yeah, they both had both kind of the same body types, and they're from
Right.
Florida too, because Sam booked himself out of Tampa for a long time.
Yeah. 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 So you were married for 10 years. Eventually it ended in divorce. Um, and I don't want to go too much in a rabbit hole because this is about you and not Jake Roberts and stuff. But was he a part of a lot of that drama that is now known with Grizzly Adams? And if so, do you think that that had a hand in your marriage ending with him because of drama that wasn't dealt with?
Um, Never really thought of it that way. What When I was in the family, I had heard rumors about Grizz, like liking young girls and the whole thing, and it was rumors, and it was kind of like ha ha ha, and never really thought about it because the guys are always talking about each other and joking and all. And when they had said something, um, you just start looking. It's just like, well, maybe there is something to it, especially if it's got to do with young girls and just bad situations. And I looked. I mean, in fact, Sam and I both were like, wow, something might be going, but We traveled with him because we worked with Bill Watts in I believe in like 88 maybe. For like 6, 7 months, we did road trips and we picked up people and drove and everything and just nothing. I think that a lot of Sam's alcoholism and drinking probably had a lot to do with the family history. Um, I don't think it helped at all. Um, I'm glad that Sam's sober now. I'm glad that he was able to, after spending some time in jail and figuring out what's right and what's wrong. Sam is on such a good path now. He's got a beautiful wife. They've been married a couple of years. They live right on the other side of Charlotte from me. Um, I'm so happy with where Sam has gone because he's done a complete 180
Good.
with his life, and I couldn't be more proud of him. I don't talk to him. My husband kind of has a rule of like exes should be exes for a reason, and I go with his wishes, but I get stories from my daughters of how he's doing,
Right.
and I talked with his wife Kim, and I'm just happy for him. I'm happy that he's found a girl that loves him and adores him and loves being Sam Houston. I couldn't be more happy for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think in order for us to receive good karma in life, we should never wish harm upon other people.
Oh no.
And I want to apologize to the viewers. I said drama, and I should have said trauma, not drama. Don't want to offend anybody. You know what I'm talking about, baby doll. So in August 23rd, 1986, you again turned heel, helping Ric Flair defeat Dusty Rhodes for the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Were you excited to become heel again? Because thinking back upon your run as a babyface and your run as a heel, and please don't take offense to this, but there's some people who seem like they're more just natural heels and people who are more natural baby faces. You seem like you're a very direct person, like I am. And people who are direct, like you and I, are more natural heels than we are baby faces. Because of that, unless I'm reading it wrong, were you excited to become heel? Did you prefer being heel over babyface?
I'm just a natural heel. Like you said, I'm very direct. I don't sugarcoat things. For me, being a baby face was harder because whenever you go out in public, they expect you to have makeup on and look like baby doll all the time. Well, with a heel, I could just put on glasses and a jacket and go and not have to worry about it. Baby faces are held up to a much higher standard. Being a heel is something that everybody wants, but not very many can, and not very many people can be really good at it. And I was very fortunate to be working with some of the best talent in the world in the history of wrestling. I got to work with them. So it was easy, but then it was hard at the same time because the people hated you and they literally beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, I had a professional wrestler tell me that people think that being a heel is easier than being a baby face because they think that, oh, you just got to be mean. But like he explained to me, he was like, being a baby face, if you just kiss a little ass, people will love you. Being a heel, if you wasn't able to strike that emotion from the audience of actually hating you, they would literally be bored with you.
Right.
And oftentimes, if you couldn't make it as a heel, that would really hurt your career within professional wrestling. Do you find that to be true?
Well, and then it's really easy to be cheesy. If you're trying to be too much of a heel and trying to be too gimmicky and really mouthy and just being a smartass, but just because you're a smartass does not make you a heel. It just makes you a smartass. I really hate it when a guy will get in the ring, or a girl, mostly it's guys, and they'll just cherry pick the guys or the fans and make fun of them. And it's like, that's not being a heel. You're just picking on
GP.
people. You're being a bully, and that's too easy. I mean, if you want to be a heel, just stand there and make them hate you. Because I can stand in the ring and just look at you and make you hate me.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You talk about being too cheesy, and my co-host for my recap show, he hates this part of me, but I am not a big, huge fan of a babyface Cody Rhodes. He's phenomenal in the ring, and I think he's great, and I think he's genuine nice. But I think that he puts on a little bit extra cheese, right, of just being that nice guy, and it drives me nuts. It just, for some
Okay.
reason, I just want to see him be a heel.
All right. Let me, because I think I know what Cody's thinking. Cody loves where he's at. Cody loves Cody. Cody loves being Dusty's son. And it's hard not to get excited when you are that happy. And he is so happy to be where he's at because he actually has worked to the point in his career where he's at. And who wouldn't be just busting out of the seams? Because this is like Christmas morning every single day, and he's continually opening presents. Look at that belt that he got over in Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia. Oh my gosh. And the ring. How could you not be cheesy?
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I just
look at
think
it from
that,
his point of view. Look at what he has worked for. Look at what he's gone through.
right.
Look at everything that has been expected of him, and he's gone above and beyond. I think that they kind of gave it to him a little bit too soon. I would have liked to have seen it last a little bit longer, but I love seeing him so happy. I love seeing his mother and sister just,
Right.
they're so proud of him.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Cody deserves everything he has, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I love Cody, but I go back to his days, and I know he didn't particularly like this run as Stardust, but
Oh, I loved
think
it.
that
With a star, yes.
yeah, but because even though he didn't really like that character, he made it work. Can
Mhm.
you imagine him just being Cody Rhodes, but a heel Cody Rhodes? I think Cody Rhodes has the potential to be one of the best heels
Oh, yeah.
in professional
Oh,
wrestling
it's
in
coming.
a
It's
very long
coming.
time.
It's
You
coming.
know,
But I
yeah,
think that
I
right
really,
now he's just having so much fun. It's
yeah,
hard not to be cheesy.
yeah,
I'm
you're
surprised.
right.
I'm surprised he's able to hold back as much as he is, really and truly.
Yeah, and I'm actually skipping over quite a bit of questions just because of my goof up. I know that you have a husband and people to take care of, and at 3 o'clock, I know you need to be done. So I'm kind of skipping over some things. I apologize to the fans. I messed up.
We can always do
With that.
another one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So
Plus, you
let
can
me
hear my
ask you
chickens. My chickens are wanting to get fed and put away.
this. So let me ask you this question. And it's about that time, so we'll end on this, and then yeah, if you come back, I would absolutely love it. You know, watching, professional wrestling, back, with Mid South and Atlanta Championship and Jim Crockett, all those guys, you all were really the first, as far as I'm concerned, reality-based professional wrestling. It drives me nuts when I hear Eric Bischoff or Vince McMahon talk about, the NWO days and the Attitude Era, how they're the ones that really brought in that reality-based style wrestling. Because when you guys were already doing that, WWE had the very cartoon characters, and I'm not knocking it because it worked for those guys up there.
Right.
But what I do knock is where they claim to be the first to bring in reality professional wrestling. Have you ever thought about that? And if so, does that kind of like bother you that you guys aren't giving that credit that you all should get? And
I think if I bitch, then they're going to take my face and erase me off everything like they've been known to do. I am so thankful that Vince did buy up all these libraries and have it available because, where would they be? Because I grew up like with the Amarillo, with the big time wrestling, and they bicycled those tapes and they taped over and they taped over. So there's nothing there. But Vince was able to buy these up and make it available so that my kids can see it. And my little grandson Ryder, like my Nana's baby doll whenever he comes to school. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I can bitch all I want to, but I know where I'm at. I know where the fans know me. My niche was very small. I mean, I worked like 2 years maybe. But you all still remember me. To WWE and Vince and Triple H and Stephanie nothing else exists except for WWE, and I completely understand that. I mean, they can't acknowledge anything else because then that would put them in
Right.
comparison with someone else, and they're not compared to anything else. Um, it's who they are, and that's why they're a multi-billion-dollar company that came up from literally nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
You're
I'm
right.
not going to tell someone that's successful like, no, you should not do that when they have been
Right.
successful.
Right. Yeah.
I know
And
I,
that
I
makes
don't
sense.
exist to them. I know I don't exist to them, but I'm so
Well,
appreciative that they haven't erased me.
yeah. Well, I tell you that I'll criticize them as a fan because one thing that really bothered me was when the Four Horsemen got inducted into the Hall of Fame, because of your affiliation with both Tully and Ric Flair and the Horsemen, really,
Mhm.
in many ways, I think that you should
Oh, I
have
was there at
been
the very
inducted.
start. I was
Right,
there at the very
exactly.
start. So,
Yes, with the original Horsemen.
well,
And I hope that, regardless of it's Triple H or the people at TKO, whoever it is, I really do believe that you deserve to be inducted, into the Hall of Fame. Is that something that's important to you, or not really, because you know your worth?
um, I'd be lying to say that it wouldn't matter to me and that I wouldn't just be thrilled over the moon if I got that phone call. I mean, it would be a flat out lie because of course, I mean that's a pinnacle, to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. But I also know that I never worked for them. I'm the only one in my family, and
Yep.
that includes my dad, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, my husband, my ex-husband, my daughter, and my sister-in-law have all made WWE checks, not me.
Right. Right.
So it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think you'll get there one day. I think all of us fans, we need to start a petition, to have
Mhm.
Baby Doll inducted. Speaking of your husband, he also was a professional wrestler. He's
Yes.
Chad Bird.
Mhm.
How and actually, I would love to have Chad and your daughter on the podcast. But how involved is Chad with your career, if any at all?
Um, I think he's in awe that I still get calls from promoters all the time asking for bookings and getting flown out to like Utah and Arkansas and Chicago and St. Louis and Philadelphia. And, I still travel quite a bit. Um, I think he'd rather that I stayed home and was Mrs. Bird, but every once in a while I like to fly and be Baby Doll every once in a while. So he's very forgiving in that. He kind of thinks that I'm too old for this and that I need to stay home and take care of him and Ryder. But I like getting out. It's a challenge for me to travel. It's a challenge for me to get out and see everyone. Oh, you got puppies.
I do.
One of the last times I traveled to Lubbock was the day that all the computer systems went down and there were like no flights going out except for Southwest. And of course, I don't know how this worked out. I had some extra points and they offered me first class to fly from Charlotte to Dallas. So I'm thinking, wow, that's a great flight. That's a long flight. That would be amazing. And have a cocktail. I can relax. It'll be nice. Well, gumbo me. I thought I'm going to fly light. If they're going to let me check my bags, I'm going to see how little I can fly with. I had my wallet and my phone, and that's all I traveled with. Well, then when everything started canceling, all my bags are downstairs. And I was thinking, you know what? I just might go home. No, I can't because my car keys are in my backpack that's checked. So I'm stuck. So yeah, I learned a valuable lesson. Do not fly with just a wallet and a phone. You're not that good.
Yeah, that's something that I would do actually. So to respect your time and your family, because I'm a family guy and trust me, I get it.
Besides, your dogs are
Last,
wanting to go out.
yep, yep. My wife's home, so. But last question, and this is about you traveling. Actually, is there anything that you want to plug right now?
Oh my gosh, yes. WrestleCade at the end of this month, the huge AML WrestleCade production with Tracy Myers and Brian Hawks. One of the biggest shows for me of the year. I've got the debut of Baby Doll t-shirts. I got my first
Awesome.
shirt. I've got 6 designs that are coming out. I'll have them at my table. I've got Elizabethton, Virginia, or Elizabethton, Tennessee, the 3rd week of December. I've got Atkins, Virginia in April. I've got Philadelphia, One and Done with Joel Goodhart in May. So yes, lots of dates coming up.
Awesome. Awesome. And again, yeah, please come back because I really did it injustice because Baby Doll is such a legend and you have so much more to your career than we just kind of just touched on it. I goofed up the time. So thank you
It's
for
okay.
being forgiven. Um, Everyone, if you are near any of those shows, go check her out. If you haven't seen her, she is absolutely amazing. There is Baby Doll truly is one of the women who paved the roads for women professional wrestling. So again, thank you so much. We'll have you back soon. And until then, everyone, you guys have a great weekend.